Hey everyone, it's the Redmen Podcast. Welcome aboard. If you are new, thank you so much for checking us out. We're going to be talking all things Liverpool Football Club today. The players will have reported back for pre-season training by the time we hit up next week's episode, so we thought we'll do some pre-season predictions. As yet, we do not know who Liverpool will be playing in pre-season. They just decided to basically make our lives more difficult by keeping that under wraps. I'm sure that's the exact reason.
Normally they play a game a week after they come back, don't they?
Yeah.
So we're less than 2 weeks away probably from the first normal game, and we still don't know about it. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. We should all have our Tranmere Rovers tickets booked by now, waiting for that first pre-season game, and we can't do that just yet. We're going to be discussing that. We're going to be talking a little bit about Jordan Henderson and his role for England, which is really good at the moment, and we're going to be doing some kickoff questions momentarily, but it is me, Paul Machin, it is Chris Pajak in the studio, Sam Walker and John Machin join us from home for this one, and our first kickoff question comes from Halfspace at Halfspace 8, which sounds like a wonderful science fiction football show from the 70s. I'm all over that. Your proudest footballing moment, like an amazing save, a great pass, a crazy goal, or even an over-the-top celebration, Chris Pajak? Goal, Rudston Villa.
Yeah, it's pretty boring, to be honest with you. So Rudston Villa, Simpsons Ground, half volley from about 25 yards out when I was about 12, 13 years old, over the keeper's head. Now, back then it looked amazing, but if you were to actually watch the goal from the sidelines, the keeper was half the size of the goal and it just went above his head. It didn't go into the top bin or anything, but you're not supposed to be able to score from 25 yards with a half volley when you're that age. Yeah. So it was either that one or saving all of Lazar Markovic's things in dizzy penalties and it being recorded so people could actually see that, and a couple of Phil Coutinho's and none of Raheem Sterling's.
Yeah. Very good for you. Absolutely owned Lazar Markovic. It was really then where a few of us sat around and went,
he's not good enough.
He might not be good enough to play for us here. Let's be perfectly honest. It was the American shootout was the one where you did the totally did him because
he had 3 attempts.
Sterling absolutely ruined you completely. He knew what was at stake and he wasn't going to be stopped by you.
It was ridiculous because it was you know what it's like? It was like I was in the Matrix and I'd slowed down, but it was like the opposite of the Matrix because Sterling just went boom, and went past me, and I was like,
whereas Markovic, I mean, to his limited credit, he obviously thought it was a light-hearted, fun thing, which it clearly was. Except it wasn't for you, and it wasn't for Sterling. And that, you know, the difference is, Chris?
Winners.
Elite mentality. That's what it is. He was trying to rainbow flicker over you and all kinds, and you had just absolutely shut him down. I think that's a pretty good and proud football and sport moment. Sam, what's yours?
Yeah, quite an easy one for me, really. Growing up, I was a goalkeeper. So, as a goalkeeper, as you know, Paul,
explains a lot, Sam.
Fair enough. But it's very difficult to be a hero unless you're playing a penalty shootout and make saves and stuff like that. So, I'm going to skip all that period till I was about 23 and I gave up. I played in a charity game at Anfield in 2011 or 12, a football aid. So, where you get absolutely your pants pulled down to play a game at Anfield anyway. But you get the full experience that you never walk alone, you get your kit with your name on and all that, a couple of legends playing. Anyway, I scored at the top end and it was brilliant. And it just kind of happens and you don't realise it's happening because you're just playing a game of footy, aren't you? And did the old Heskey DJ celebration, obviously, as you know, I used to be a DJ back in the day. And but when I scored, my cousin said to me, my cousin played the game, so he said, you've got to celebrate. So I sort of ran over to the director's box, bit where people were, and my brother had it on video, so that was quite nice. I've obviously still got it to this day. So, you know what? Forget competitive football. You got to play at Anfield and score a goal. That's got to be it for me. So, yeah.
That sounds amazing. Absolutely amazing. Dad, have you got anything that comes close to scoring at the top end?
No, absolutely not. Not even Gladys Street. Never mind. No, mine would have been... I used to be, well, my school team were absolutely brilliant and they sort of won everything around. They won the Echo Cup and Martindale and all that. And it was in the era of no substitute. So I was often the 12th man. So I got asked to play for the year above me. And the first game we played, I got the ball. I won the ball in the middle of our half, passed it to the wing, ran straight down the middle towards the goal, screaming for a cross. The guy on the wing crossed it to me. I hit it on the volley absolutely perfectly in stride into the top of the roof of the net, and thought that's the greatest goal I'll ever score in my whole life. And I ran away with one arm up in the air like Shearer or in them days Dennis Law. And the lad on the side said, "What's that? What have you got your arm up for? What are you celebrating for? We don't do that." He was older and bigger than me, so I thought.
Don't celebrate. Oh my God, but he loved Mario Balotelli. Oh my God. Who apparently didn't score because, you know, postmen don't celebrate when they post letters, but really they celebrate because he didn't score. I am Proudest football moments. It's weird. I had a couple of decent ones, like mentioned, like as a keeper, like a penalty save in the cup for the school. One of the ones was the one that I always remember. I talk about this a bit, was being a sub and being the only sub on a Saturday early kickoff. A lot of our main first team were off playing for the main teams they played for, the club teams, and a player got injured, so I got subbed on at right back, and I had an absolute field day. It was the most fun I've ever had in football, because we used to, at that time, when you're like 15, 16, you played football like 5-6 days a week. So even if you weren't amazing, you were good at football because you played against your mates. You used to go to the park and play against your four mates. So you knew how to take a man on because you just learned. You had to come up with new ways to take men on. So I just had fun skinning left wingers for fun because no one expected the goalie to be any good at footy, which was pretty good. And the only other one was scoring an overhead kick in sevens.
I saw that overhead kick. That was on the mystery, wasn't it?
I scored an overhead kick in school. But you know, it's been my party piece for
I was
20 years.
playing on the next pitch, and for some reason I'd stopped and looked, and I saw you and this amazing overhead kick from the pitch next year. And I was like, that's the first team goalie. Like, what's he doing? Like, what a goal that one was. Like,
I did that one again. It was too many years of watching football gaffs videos and seeing like mad goalkeeper stuff that we played at a training game for the school, and I scored from goal by dribbling it down the pitch, beat everyone and slotted. That it wasn't the full strength team. I couldn't have done it against the full strength team, but yeah, good stuff. But overhead kicks, I scored an overhead kick in sevens, and Sean, who used to play with us, it was desperate to try and get the CCTV footage, and he didn't have it.
Yeah, he was. He might be watching this actually, Sean. Hopefully you are.
Yeah, come play footy with us again, Sean.
Thursday, 7:00.
Yeah, right. To bring things more back to the Reds, then do let us know your best best football moments in the comments. Always good.
Was Sean even on our side? He gets well excited for a good goal, Sean. It doesn't matter who scored it, whether it's his team or not.
Yeah,
which really annoys the really competitive people when he's celebrating the other team scoring.
That was a pretty visual gag. Jack Jones, the real Jack Jones. He's added an extra S, so he's thrown out straight
just the clothing
onto that.
guy.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I was thinking, he's got a really good Twitter handle, and then he's added an extra S, unless that's how his name's spelt, in which case that's cool. Do you think we should get a like-for-like Genie replacement, or would you prefer an AMC? Credit here for using the Football Manager layout, not Cam, or a striker, and give you the option of playing Bobby as a 10. Personally, I'd like the flexibility that assigning a 10 gives us, and I think it's the place to get best out of Ox/Naby, and then hashtag Mbappe 2021. He's gone for all kinds here, as old Jack Jones. But the answer to the first question, Chris, I like Genie replacement.
And can I give a really boring answer here? It depends what Klopp wants to do.
Yeah.
You know, if because I like the idea of playing Bobby in the 10, but it's redundant if we don't have a 10 in our team. You know what I mean? So it really, as a boring answer, it depends what he's going to do. If he's going to play the same formation as last year, then I think we need a like-for-like Genie replacement. Yeah. If he's going to change the formation, then I want the flexibility of someone who can play a 10 and the forward. Mm-hmm. You know, but look at me, I'm greedy. I want both.
yeah, it's a good point. It is a good point. We're all a bit greedy, aren't we? As evidenced. But Sam, you know, I get it. I don't know about the like-for-like Genie replacement thing, because it depends how what we don't know, and it's sort of to Chris's point, we don't know what the managers want. We don't know if there's going to be an evolution of this team in terms of what they're doing. Gini Wijnaldum, we might have actually wanted Gini Wijnaldum to do what he does, but score 10 goals a season, which sounds ridiculous, but that might be what we wanted. So we might not want a like-for-like Gini replacement. We might actually want someone who's better, which is hard to say when he was so integral to the side, particularly last season, in the face of all the injuries. But we don't know, do we?
Yeah, I'm actually in agreement with you there. I think there's a world between a number 10 and a 6/8, which is what Gini was, wasn't he, really? If you want to go by Yves Bissouma, you're probably getting more like a Gini replacement for our team. Personally, I'd like someone who plays central midfield but has a bit more output going forward. So in an ideal world, Tilly Zillemans will be the person we go for. But as I would say, Yuri Tillemans, so that kind of player who plays centrally, can drop deep, pick up the ball, etc., but as an output in the final third. Like you say, if Gini could have scored another 5 goals a season or 4 goals a season, he would have been the absolute perfect central midfielder. So I think maybe, ideally for me personally, that would be what I would go for. I think Klopp will probably go for something more pragmatic because we've got a lot of attacking players in the squad already, like Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain, whatever he does with Minamino. Yeah, so I would rather us go for a sort of hybrid.
Sorry, Paul, just on the Gini thing, does anyone think that Klopp told him how to play that role?
Yeah.
So it stands to reason, because I think Gini Wijnaldum could have done that sort of. Well, he can. Look at him in the Euros. Look at him for Holland for the last 4 years or whatever. He can do he's got the attacking output, but I think he's being told, curb it. Do a job for the team.
Sort of, but also he misses loads. He misses so many chances. So
which means he was doing the job.
Exactly, but the point is he's not. But you can get someone who can do all of that potentially. I wonder whether they look at that and go, if you can have someone who can finish at the end of it, you've got Gini Wijnaldum plus is maybe the point on that. Because I agree, I think he has told them, and I think it's not like we don't see Gini Wijnaldum getting in and around the box. But how many times you go, oh God, Gini. How many times the ball would drop to him on the edge of the box and it goes 20 yards over the bar and stuff. That might be it, I think. What are your thoughts on it, Dad?
Well, my point would be the same as Chris's. I think we will buy a Gini replacement, but a replacement in so far as he'll do what he's told.
Yeah.
Klopp will play him whatever way he wants to play him. And he might buy the best attacking midfield player in the world and play him deep. That's what Klopp will do if he wants to. And whoever comes in will actually follow the plan. My own preference is for an attacking midfield player because, for all the Shaqiri and Ox, are in the squad, there's no output from them at the moment. Yeah. So, I think we do need someone who's a bit more going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck a bit more, like Ox used to do before his injury. Yeah. So that would be my preference. But, we will be bringing in someone who does what Klopp needs for the team. So.
My best guess is that our Gini replacement is Jordan. I think that Jordan Henderson becomes the lad who ends up on the edge of the box because Thiago won't be that guy.
Yeah.
He'll be sort of slightly deeper than Jordan Henderson. So whereas we've kind of had a little bit of both with Henderson and Wijnaldum sort of taking turns, I think that Henderson's the one that's sort of given that freedom to join the edge of the box, go in beyond the striker when necessary, and know that Thiago and Fabinho are behind him.
I think that's a really interesting point. I wonder, and it just links back to the points made there, whether it's not so much a Gini replacement as much it is someone to finally do what Keita and Ox were meant to do. And that's that point of, again, and you're suggesting it with Henderson stuff, which I think is very possible as well. But you've got Ox and Keita there who are ball carrying, attacking, naturally attack-minded midfielders, then neither of them is going to play the 6 for you, whereas all of our other midfielders could all play the 6. And whether we feel rather getting a tune out of them, or they go, well, look, we've been trying to get this working now for 5 years. Do you go again in the transfer market and get someone else who is that? Is maybe an answer there. But again, people always come back to this. So when people saying we need to buy Coutinho or a Coutinho-like, as though Coutinho ever played in midfield for us. And I know he did, by the way. But it's been a bugbear of mine.
Games from the left.
Yeah, 100%. And the vast majority of games from the left as well. He played a relatively handful of games as a midfielder. It requires a shift in formation. which
he kept getting run past every time he was playing in the centre of the park.
But equally, when we won if we're going back into more of a normal season, we might see us try to replicate what we did in the title-winning season, and we did shift things. 4-2-3-1 was our break glass. You're chasing a goal for the final 10-15 minutes of a football match formation. So we don't know is the point. But yeah, so I believe we need another midfielder, but we'll have to see what goes on with that. Right, we're going to be talking pre-season in a moment, but just want to highlight Redmen Picks to you. It's running throughout the Euros. You can get involved and play for free right now. There is a £100 total prize pool available for answering some very simple questions about Italy versus Spain. I've already locked in mine for this. Will Italy beat Spain? 78% of Redmen fans have gone with yes, and I'm no different in that one. Will Italy score in the first half? Will Spain score in the second half? How many shots on target will Spain have? How many shots on target will Italy have? How many corners will Italy be awarded? How many saves will the Spain goalkeeper make? Will Ferran Torres score? Will Ciro Immobile score? How many saves will Italy's goalkeeper make? And that is it. All you've got to do is answer those very simple questions. You've just got to log in or create an account. You do not need to deposit any money. It's completely free to play. You do need to be 18 plus, however, and make sure with anything that you are gamble aware, check out the terms and conditions. There is also a paid version on top. If you want to chuck in, I think it's £1, you get a £250 prize pool. If you're feeling confident.
The England game will be live tomorrow as well.
And the England game is to come as well. So yeah, it's still running. I found myself of late doing it because with the Euros, it's nice to just have a little cool game to play and occupy yourself in the build up to game. So I found myself keeping that tab open on my browser and basically just refreshing it every time the game's finished and then do my next ones, and you just in with a shout, which would look really suspect if I was to get there. I came so close to a 10 the other week, frighteningly close.
Did you? Yeah. How many points away?
1 point away.
How many positions away? Well,
technically one, but also when 60. You've got 60 people who all get 11 points and I got 10. So yeah, get involved. redmenpicks.com and you can be with a chance of winning part of that £100 prize pool for free. Right, yes, we're going to talk about pre-season in a moment, but I think it's only fair. We've been skating around the Euros thing for a while. We've had plenty of conversations around England and what have you, and whether we do or don't. There's old videos when we talk about the Scouts not English stuff, and we've talked about all the political ramifications. And I just want to highlight, first of all, before we dive into the Hendo chat, if you want to know why some of us have some moral issues with the England stuff, it's Boris fucking Johnson disobeying the rules about being in a venue and being stood up in a venue when you're meant to be sat down. If you stood up, you've got to be masked up and all that kind of stuff. Breaking those to be in a photo op to see, so he's being seen to be watching the match, and that photo with the English flag outside and all that kind of stuff. That's what makes me want to vomit out my eyes. But in a footballing sense, Chris, we went and did the 5 channel, Real Fair channel with Howson and Joel Bayer the other week, and it was sound. We're both sort of fairly England football agnostic in this regard. It was quite nice seeing Joel, who's really well up for it, but also given how bitter and horrible about it Howson was, I've come to realise that because I have no depth of feeling one way or the other, when I'm seeing all this Southgate criticism, what's he doing with his team selection, all this frothing at the mouth, I actually don't.
You can't buy into that.
I don't buy into it one way or the other. So I've actually probably got more an overall level of base enjoyment out of it. I haven't got the peaks because I don't feel that depth of feeling, but I certainly haven't been in any of the negative troughs in all the build-up to the match.
I don't get the negative stuff. Again, I'm just a lad who's enjoyed the Euros, and I've watched so much of it, so much more than I have of previous tournaments as well, because the timing of it's perfect for me. You put the kids to bed at 8 o'clock. I pretty much watch an 8 o'clock game every single day, for the most part, and then I've made the rare sort of decisions to watch an earlier one if I can do, if it's someone that I'm asked about and stuff. So watching the England games has been quite good. They've been on. I've been watching them. I've been seeing the sort of kickoffs online about his team selections, and then it's kind of like watching Liverpool from the outside in some ways. Kickoff. Neil Jones said this to me. the other day. It's like, oh wow, we've lost the starting 11 game again for the 38th time this season. That's kind of what it's like, isn't it? You've lost as soon as the team comes out, and then the team get to play football. And Gareth Southgate has picked the right team every time because they've won and they've not conceded a goal. And it's weird watching people defend the position when Southgate's picked the team that's won the game. Yeah. And then they go again the next day. It was just a boss game of footy the other night. It was really enjoyable. And I celebrated the goal when Henderson scored for the first time in years.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, I've seen you go and ape shit over Southgate and his selections and what have you. How is your feeling around all the England stuff?
Do you know why England win games of football, right? Because they've got better players than the other team. Do you know this? Do you know what England are? England are the Manchester United of international football. Yeah. And this is exactly what's going to happen. They're going to probably arse the way to the final by having Grealish and Foden and Mount and Kane and Sterling and Sancho and Saka and every other quality English player that's available to them. And they'll probably get there. But when they get to a final, shit's going to get real for them. And I think, I know we'll talk about that probably in a second, but this is the thing for me, is that I look at the team and I see, and I don't care what anyone says, like, and I don't care that I'm a biased Liverpool fan, because I am, but unless Jordan Henderson's not 100% fit, he should be playing instead of both of them with 10 men, let alone sitting on the bench for one of them in the centre midfield. So I think that's been a bit mad. I mean, I can't really knock his forward selections because there's that many of them that are quality, but I do think that Southgate is so pragmatic, but they've got away with it because of the quality of play and not because of his tactics. Because let's be honest, the games have been so awful until the second half of the Ukraine game. Even the first half was grim.
To the point though, Sam, how are you meant to be? I don't know how you're meant to tactically do it when you don't have. It's not a club side. You know what I mean? It's not like you get to work on. The game, your tournaments are won by good footballers. And good footballers look better in major tournaments. There's a reason why Jurgen Klopp looks like a world beater, because in tournaments you just need your best players to be the best players.
Yeah, and it's the same with Gini, isn't it? It's a levels thing. Gini looks amazing for Holland because international football's not as good as Premier League and Champions League football, so he can smash it. So, in that respect, I agree. I think Southgate's the luckiest manager I've ever seen in my life. I mean, the two draws he's had in the two last international tournaments have enabled him to get to a position where they've been two semi-finals without really having to do much by just having better players. I mean, some of the old England managers must be pulling their hair out with the draws that England have had now versus then. It's truth, isn't it? And, Portugal's manager must be like that. The games they've had to play, Belgium's manager, etc., etc. So, you can't really knock them too much because they've got through. But, from a perspective of excitement, or from a perspective of, could you still improve England's starting 11 if you picked a slightly different team? The answer, in my opinion, is yes.
Yeah. I think the Henderson stuff is the only bone of contention, isn't it, Dad? And to Chris's point, it's so good to see him, because we were having this chat at the weekend. There's so much better with him in that side. There's not a football team around that isn't improved by Jordan Henderson in the midfield, and it's mad to say that because I think there's the years ago that a lot of people would have turned their noses up at that, but it's so evident. I think he completed more passes in the 20 minutes or something he was on the pitch than anyone else had in the game leading up to that.
Half an hour, yeah. He was the best player on the pitch for the half hour he was on the pitch. No doubt about it. He was just brilliant. He was all over the place. Supporting people, collecting the ball, moving it on, and scoring a goal. But he actually predicted he would score, didn't he? He said it's coming to people, and maybe he knows his role's changing and he's going to get more into the box. Who knows? I mean, my position on England is I like them being in tournaments because it is more interesting to see an England game than to see Ukraine, Czech Republic, or something like that. Because you have an interest whether you like it or not. Yeah. But I don't care if they don't do well, and if they get beat, tomorrow, or if they get to the final, get beat, it won't be a disaster for me. It'll just be they got beat. And in terms of, I do get upset by some of the team selections, but that's because I've got an involvement. If I didn't care at all, then it wouldn't bother me who they played. As it is, I do, say, well, why the hell is he playing two older midfield players? Why is he playing? Why won't he let his wing backs play in an attacking role until about 10 minutes from the end of the game? But that's what makes it interesting. It's like, and I can watch Denmark and see how they set up, or I can watch Italy and admire the skill of the players involved. And, that's what tournament football is all about. You like to see what's hopefully the best football in the world,
Yeah, the Henderson stuff, but the way I can surmise it, it's why I've been quite laissez-faire about the team selections and all that, Chris, because he's quite clearly the best midfielder England have got, but he's also been out for the back end of the season. He's not kicked the ball. He was on the bench against Crystal Palace, and the fact that he doesn't get on in the last game of the season tells you everything you need to know about where he was at. Mm-hmm. Southgate, to my mind, I enough belief because I know how good he is and I know how highly Gareth Southgate rates him as well. He's clearly protected Maguire and he's clearly protected Henderson and he's clearly tried his best to massage Kane into form as well around with his own fitness issues. That's the spine of the team. They're the senior players, they're his best players in all those positions. Whether we think Harry Maguire is brilliant or not, he's clearly England's best centre-half. They're miles better for having him in there. And same with Henderson. And I don't know whether that means he will start Henderson, on Wednesday, but also I think he's playing 20-minute football matches because of the way, and I don't think that's a stupid way to play football at the moment because everyone's knackered the quality of this tournament. I mean, I know we've seen goals and we've seen bits and pieces, but the standard's nowhere near to what we watch on a week in, week out basis. Everyone's done. When you've got the best players and you've got tons of them, why not? Why not make it a 20-minute game?
What's interesting, I mean, I think personally Henderson should be coming back in for the semi-final. I think, or starting a game for the first time in the tournament. And I think Gareth Southgate's substitutions in the quarter probably led us to believe that it will be for Calvin Phillips because when Declan Rice and Phillips were both on a yellow, he took Rice off, which says to me he was protecting him more than Calvin Phillips. So if Calvin picked up another yellow card, he had Hendo to play alongside Declan Rice. Yeah. I think Declan Rice is probably slightly more important to how England play. Therefore, Hendo comes in alongside Declan Rice if he's ready. Because the other side of it is, well, does Southgate think he's ready yet? Is he ready for that 90-minute game? Can he go Wednesday, Sunday, or whatever the final is?
Are you better off having Jordan Henderson for 70 minutes plus extra time? Or do you want him for 70 minutes and off when the crunch time of the game happens? I think that's why he's
and can he play Wednesday, Sunday if England were to get through?
Exactly, yeah.
But he can start... Sorry, I was just going to say, if he starts a semi-final and plays 65 minutes, because let's be honest, they should be Denmark. They should. If they don't, then wow. But then I agree with you, actually. It might be worth leaving him on the bench for the final for what you've just said, for the because it's likely to have been a tighter game, isn't it? So for 70 plus, finish the game with your strongest midfielder on. But I think Southgate's shoulders, I don't think he'll start to win either game, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe, but I think again, whether it's right or wrong, and I've got no vested interest in defending Gareth Southgate on it. But I think at the moment he's he's ending with his best team or as best as he can because that's how games are being won, and it looks jammy because somehow bring on substitutes and go like, oh, it's Grealish that's won the game. Well, having Grealish pumped up and letting him loose on a game when he's been watching and not playing Jadon Sancho for all his time and then starting him all of a sudden you're getting Jadon Sancho absolutely chomping at the bit, desperate to make an impact. I think it's one of them things we talked about this when we showed the other week is when you engineer cup wins, tight away European wins. If it goes wrong, you look stupid. But if you nick a 1-0 away win, having defended for 90 minutes and then score from a corner, it's called a masterclass. But it's only a masterclass when it works for you. If not, you go, well, why didn't you play football? Why didn't you try and do X, Y, and Z? And to the Denmark point, I was asked the question by my son, who are Denmark, Dad? Are they any good? And I was like,
well, they've won it, we haven't.
Well, yeah, well, which is not. But the point is that the simple answer for the Denmark, to Sam's point, Denmark haven't got as good players as England, so England should probably win. Is I guess as fair a point on this as any. That was plenty of England chat. I think that was
too much to be fair.
I said this before. I enjoyed the joy of football. I love the joy that it brings. There's a limit because when people just turn into knobheads, people turn into knobheads in all kinds of walks. I've enjoyed seeing all my mates who are dead sound, who love it, who clearly don't have the same, like
That's
James.
the thing.
Well, James Allcott is a QPR fan. This is well bigger than anything QPR have done for ever for his entire lifetime. So, boss.
There was that overhead kick, wasn't there? Trevor
Sinclair, yeah, absolutely. I remember
that's probably it, isn't it?
Les Ferdinand probably scored a goal in the Premier League at one point. Right, Liverpool back to pre-season training on Monday, Dad. Still no games confirmed. In fact, we had a super chat asking us just that. Gareth Baird said, anyone know the fixtures for pre-season? Yeah, Gareth, no. It would be really, really useful for a Liverpool-based media company to have some idea of when the Reds are going to kick a ball around.
I want to
know.
The way they have secret clubs and stuff now, you have to go in through a telephone box. So I think it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
You turn up somewhere to a field and you open the door and there they are playing.
Yeah, you just go walk the dog round the mystery, and there's Liverpool just having playing Tranmere in the middle of the park. Yeah, you never know. Dad, though, what we're just talking about the general gist of pre-season, because I find transfers is a bit like this. There's just stories repeated ad nauseum, year in, year out. You just change the names around. Again, we have it with transfer rumours. We defo have it with pre-season. What are some of the things? What is one thing, anything that you think we are guaranteed to see from Liverpool this pre-season?
We're guaranteed to see loads of our young kids playing as if they're world beaters and might actually have a chance of getting in the first team, when of course they don't and they won't.
Yeah, I mean, we do this every year, don't we, Chris? We've done this thing when we're going to Tranmere, and Ovie Ejaria arrived out of nowhere. We had no idea who he was, and he ran the show. We were like, great. And look, to be fair, he ended up playing first team games, so he's going to have a decent career and what have you. But there is always that. We don't own Ryan Kent anymore, so it can't be. We do still own Harry Wilson. So there's every chance that, as far as cliches go, Harry Wilson having a very good pre-season game is probably as on the cards as anything. Yeah,
I think the biggest one for me is probably Grujic has a couple of really good games and gets sold and everyone loses their head about it because we need a midfielder.
Yeah.
That's probably a guaranteed. And the only other guarantee is that Milner wins the lactate test, which we'll find out in the next few days, I suppose.
I wonder if there could be like a changing of the guard.
Yeah, I thought that and then thought, nah. Don't back against James Milner.
What about you, Sam? What are we guaranteed to see?
Keita gets a knock. Keita gets a knock. Loads of videos off Ox. He loves it, doesn't he? But everyone getting absolutely gassed up for Harvey Elliott to dominate the Premier League next season as well. Which probably will include me as well, by the way, because I was a Brewster loving defo. Yeah. Game against Tranmere. Who else do we usually play? Bradford. We've played them before. We might get over to Northern in it. We might go and play them.
Yeah, I always loved the conference to League 2, League 1 championship kind of like ramp up of northern teams was always good fun.
There was rumours we were going to play United, wasn't there, a few weeks ago?
It's all been fucked off, hasn't it? Because there's fears that the games would be swarmed because of all the stuff that happened.
Yeah, so I think the big thing now is obviously after Johnson's announcements last night, I wonder if that's playing into Liverpool's pre-season plans and stuff like that. Like we might actually get a game at Anfield where you do get a crowd, because it's been so long for all that staff to have actually ran a game.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? A full 45, 50,000 in the stadium. Like there must be some serious training going on behind the scenes. So it wouldn't surprise me if Liverpool just had a little test run.
Well, by all accounts, what we know, or what we know in inverted commas, is Rangers is almost certain to be a thing, and there's one more. I think they're looking to have two at Anfield with capacity before the season starts, which I think is right. I think will play into your point there. But I also wonder, Sam, whether there's just the travel ban thing. You know, like what do you do and where do you go on your pre-season tour? Liverpool are not going to arrange a bunch of fixtures and sell tickets even potentially for games when you might find that it's just not possible to travel to those countries and you've just wasted loads of time, effort and money in organising them.
Well, I think back end of July they'll try and get away again, won't they? Because they did last year, didn't they? When there was Austria we were in, or the part of Germany near Austria, I can't remember. It was around there, wasn't it? Avion, was it? Something like that. So I can imagine them to do that because Klopp likes his away from Liverpool week, doesn't he? But interestingly enough, Man United are still going on tour to America. So
Everton as well.
There you go. Yeah, so I was actually quite surprised that because it just seems like a logistical nightmare. I'm glad Liverpool aren't, because I just think it'll be much more sensible to get everybody used to the access centre, the ones who've been away. Because some of our lads, Van Dijk, Gomez, Matip, to an extent, won't have actually trained at the access centre with the first team that much because basically he got injured before he moved in. Am I right in saying that? Van Dijk definitely did, didn't he? So he will not have actually had a first team training session with the team at the access training centre, which is bonkers. So I think all of that. Well, and I just imagine, a simple training schedule at Liverpool, followed up by a week away in Austria or something like that. No mad international, no Dublin, should we say?
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't know, do you? Because we're saying all this, and I like that idea that particularly off the back of a manic year, 2 years really, 4 really, that Jurgen makes a lot of concessions because he understands there's more to football than just him and his lads kicking a ball around, which is why he accedes to the American tours, why the American tours went from being every 2 years to being every year, and why they've had, and also there's a flip side, the last time they went to Hong Kong, it was a nightmare. They were training on inside hotels because they couldn't get out and play on pitches and stuff, which might have affected that. I wonder whether there's a deal been struck here where he's just said, looking at what we've been through, can we please just rein it in a little bit more this summer, stay a bit closer to home?
You mean Germany?
Well, yeah, but not going on tour time where you're changing people's body clocks or whatever.
He'll want a training camp, won't he? But rather than a tour, he'll want a training camp somewhere in the mountains,
and just send them into frozen lakes and have them fight for each other's lives. No, but it's funny because they do that every year. That's what this squad needs as well. They need a team. They need team bonding. They need a reason to get together and be mates. You hear Trent, the interview I did with Trent, and he talks about how the going to Formby Hall when they won the title. I know they've been working together, but they hadn't seen each other in the months after lockdown. We talked about it when they went away on the Champions League. Just actually the act of getting on a flight together and going somewhere else is something that just breaks the cycle and gives you a bit more. Klopp probably he needs that more than anything, doesn't he? It's how we wear.
That's it, yeah. I mean, look, we all know that the training camps are what's important to Jurgen. He puts up with it because he understands the football's more than just the games nowadays, and it is about branding and commercial deals and all that type of stuff. But he hates them. And he knows that you're probably working the players too hard because they've got access for interviews and they're pulled here, there and everywhere. He just wants the training camps. He wants to go. He wants them to be friends. He wants them to enjoy time together. He wants them probably away from their family and their normal life a little bit as well. And he wants them concentrating on building themselves up for a full season. He loves them getting on the photos of them getting on the bikes and just having a nice ride and enjoying themselves as well as the hard yards that they have to put in. So Klopp, I think, will be absolutely made up in some ways not to have to go through this season.
You know what he hates the most? Open training sessions.
Yeah.
He fucking hates open training sessions because it's not training, because he can't actually do any training because you're giving the game away because you're in front of cameras and things can get leaked and passed on. It's a complete waste of his time. Yeah, complete waste of his time.
Just some rondos.
Yeah, do some rondo. But we love it, of course we do. We get to have stood pitch side at Fenway and watch the Reds run around yards from. It's great, but he hates them. But just on the players in particular, I've had a few names mentioned there, Dad. And Sam mentioned that Harvey Elliott, big pre-season for him. Really, really big. He's on a short list for me, and he's probably top of. I really want to see where he's at, because I think ideally, if he, Liverpool will want to keep him around this season, but we need to know that he's capable and he's not just, we're going to throw the kid on because you want to throw the kid on as some sort of gesture. He doesn't do that. He puts players on who are ready to play football.
Yeah, I mean, you'll know how good he is if he does, make a real impact in terms of the squad this year. And we see a lot more of him. and it's that old thing about if you're good enough, you're old enough. And, really, really good players, at his age do start to make an impact. And my only worry about him, and I don't think it'll happen with Liverpool, is some players you see like Michael Owen, they start too young. They fade away long before their career should, because, forwards generally rely on pace and stuff, and hamstrings take a battering, don't they? So you have to nurture players, but it'll be great to see him and see how he's come on since, because he definitely wasn't ready, when he went out on loan. No one would have thought, always a guaranteed first team player in the future. It was not sure, he's clearly got talent, but then he went, into the Championship and, set the place on fire, didn't he? So it'd be nice to see how that translates.
There's a big step up, isn't there? Because it's not just stepping up to Premier League level. You're stepping up to title winning Champions League final level. That's what Liverpool are aiming for, Sam. To be in that Liverpool first team, not just about being good, you've got to be exceptional. You've got to be a borderline generational talent, to be anywhere near Liverpool's squad at this point. And it's going to be an important thing because I don't see any point in sending him down to the Championship again. So really, you're looking at a Premier League loan or maybe a top European loan potentially if you were to send them out. So that's why it's going to be important to kind of get a sense of is just what is his level. And we'll think he's at that level because he might turn it on and look amazing against Tranmere and all these other lower league sides, but it's all the stuff that he's doing off the pitch on the training ground, all the extra bits and pieces.
It's really interesting. I've got a friend who's a Blackburn fan. He's really into it. Watches all the I follow they had last year, and I spoke to him about it. And I listened to the loan review as well, like you guys did, which is really good. And I think what both consistently said is that his decision making for his age was fantastic, and I think that's huge in the development. If you look at players like Cristiano Ronaldo, who obviously went on to be one of the best players ever existed, all of these type of attacking players who've got good feet, they overdid it when they were younger. And I think from what I gather is Harvey Elliott already at a young age is starting to make smart decisions when he's in the final third. What I would say as well is I think when he played in the season when he was at us against in the cup games and stuff like that, and he came on the odd Premier League game, he already showed he could have an impact. And then he's just gone and had a season in the Championship where, in my opinion, it's almost like having two loan spells at once because he's played so many games for them. Usually you would send a player on loan at that age, they come on, they make some appearances, maybe play 25 games, 30 games for them, and then the next season they go up another level. He's gone to Blackburn, and within 3 weeks, he's one of the first names on the team sheet. So he's almost had a big 2 steps of development along the way, and he starts scoring goals. They're looking to him to win the game for them, or they're looking to him to create that chance and make it level, equalise for them. And I think so. He's had a quick learning curve. My only worry with sending players on loan is what happened to Brewster. And I thought that his loan move to Swansea and the way he did would have meant that he would have come back into the squad. But actually, it proved the point that I've made years ago. Most players who go on loan end up getting sold. So I think if Elliott goes on loan this season, he could find this timing with our squad gone, and we may end up selling him. I hope he stays and does the Curtis Jones role.
Yeah. The thing is,
Brewster picked up an injury as well, didn't he? That was
he did, yeah.
Well, Brewster missed these years out injured is the difference. You know what I mean? He missed his opportunity to burst into the scene because he missed 2 years of football effectively. The thing about Elliott for me, Chris, is that when we saw him play for us, he looked great against the good teams. But think about he was better in the replay against Shrewsbury. But when he came up against less technical football teams, he looked like a child because that's the physical side. But the Championship stuff, that's why the Championship loan was potentially massive for him. To borrow the expression from one of Liverpool's coaches, saying going and playing against hairy ass men for a year, will toughen you up, and that's what it's going to be. So I'm excited to see physically how he's developed, how much more robust. Because who else is on this list? Taki Minamino's on this list. And what the big accusation about Minamino is that is he physical enough for the Premier League as well? So that's one thing we are actually going to be able to see, even from early stages of pre-season, because when you're playing against, less technical football teams, they become more physical battles, and you can gauge that a bit better.
And why does it take so long for young players to get into it? I mean, they go through their early footballing career playing the best of their age group. And it starts really, really early on. And then you might get into like an under-18 side when you're 16. It's still not a massive jump. It's 2 years of lads who are underdeveloped physically. Then you might get to an under-23s. Then when you play men's football, you're playing the best of 15, 20 age groups and the best of the best as well. So that's why it takes so long for them. And then physically, they all develop at different speeds and stuff as well, don't they? I think the loan move was great for Harvey last year. I love what everyone's been saying. I've read so much about how he's applied himself to decision making that Sam mentioned and stuff like that. But the important thing is that it doesn't stall, because I think right now, and maybe I'm on my own on this, I don't see him getting in the first team, and I don't see him playing a big part in the squad this season either, because he's coming in Mo's position.
That's a
and
massive
Jurgen doesn't take Mo off.
Yeah.
So when you've got Jota to play one of those for, you're not even the first choice. Like, I think Jurgen would probably move someone around before he plays Harvey Elliott. Now, I could be wrong. He might have made a big enough jump that he comes in and makes that impact. But right now, it's the most important years of any young player's development. And what they need more than anything in those younger years, those important years, is football. And I don't see that going long in the Carabao Cup is anywhere near as good as what he's had with Blackburn.
Well, we still own Shaqiri and Origi, and neither of them in a pandemic season.
They couldn't even get on.
Yeah, barely got a kick for us last season. So that's where he's got. But that
doesn't mean he's not going to be good enough, by the way. I just think at this stage of his development, he's not going to get the games.
Yeah.
So you have to move him on.
Potentially.
It's kind of the same with Caoimhin Kelleher.
Yeah.
You know, we're at that point where it's like, he's not going to improve without games of football, but we know he's our best second choice goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But what? We just got to go, you're all right. Just sit there, don't play football. It's a real tough one at this stage.
Yeah, that's it. You got to. We had this. Well, this is the conversation we had last week about how do you get an understudy for Trent? How do you understudy the best in the world? Well, Mo Salah's. I mean, look, before people before the Messi fans fall in rage over this, but Mo Salah is effectively the best right winger in world football.
Yeah.
What point being, there's no one you can buy who's better than Mohamed Salah. So, what do you do? How do you understudy that? We'd all be looking around the continent and go, well, you need an upcoming wonder kid, don't you? So Harvey Elliott might actually just fit that mould. So he's coming on for 10 minutes here and there, and he's getting a few bits and pieces. I was just looking at it in terms of the actual appearances last season. What we need him to do, I'm going to get the exact figure in a moment when I actually find how low down Shaqiri is on the list. Shaqiri, 22 appearances last season. Across all competitions. Now, in terms of minutes, that's 829, so it's a bunch of bits and pieces, and it's whether Harvey Elliott's development is better for that, and I wonder whether he's still young enough. If he was 19, 20, I would be more concerned about him just needing to play full seasons of football, whereas he might just be young enough that because he's a sponge at that age, that and being around Salah and Mane and Firmino and training might be enough to make up for the not playing 40 games a season. But that's what I mean. It goes back to the preseason. Any other players?
AFCON, Paul, that's a big factor as well.
Yeah, but is he good enough? Is an 18-year-old Harvey Elliott good enough to understudy Mohamed Salah? And we don't, of course, we're 8 months away from that, so we don't know. But any other players who would be on a short list that on important watch lists this pre-season, Dad?
Well, you mentioned Minamino. We need to know whether he's going to be an integral part of the squad or not. You know, he came in with everyone excited about him. Didn't get a lot of game time. Seemed to wake up when we played Palace, and then was immediately shipped out on loan. Where he scored twice in his first 2 games, and then he got dropped, didn't he? And so that wasn't entirely successful for him. And I suppose this issue about his size is interesting. Klopp was saying how we needed bigger players because of the situation we were in with our defence and stuff. If that's resolved, does that mean Minamino is much more, useful? I don't know. I like him myself. I think he's a nice little player.
He's got something, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think, to sort of answer the question that John answered as well, the biggest concern for me isn't the lads on the fringes of the squad. The biggest concern is seeing how Joe Gomez, Joel Matip and Virgil van Dijk do in pre-season. Yeah. That's the one where I'm like, panicking over whether they're going to come back, because that has more of an impact than Harvey Elliott is ever going to have this season.
Yeah. Well, we said this when we were talking the other week about our fears around the transfer market, and again, it's why I'm remaining pretty laissez-faire. I'm seeing lots of people's heads falling off because it's social media, and again, 11 years we've been doing this now. I've had this for 11 years, watched the same stories and the same reactions, just changing the names. Liverpool are not going to go big in the transfer market until they've assessed Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez and Joel Matip. Because if for any reason Virgil van Dijk has a breakdown, then or two of them do, or heaven forbid all three of them, then all of a sudden this idea that we're going to throw £100 million at a forward, or that we're going to go and compete for Jadon Sancho, completely pointless. Right now, maybe Liverpool would have been interested in Sancho. I don't think at that wage. I don't think we would have broken our wage structure for him, because I don't think he's better than what we've got. But I don't think Liverpool will go and commit their entire or the largest chunk of their transfer budget to anything until they know what it is they exactly need. And you can't know what you need until Virgil van Dijk plays pre-season games. Now, he's going to be back for day one of training. Day one. So that means he will theoretically be available from game one of pre-season, which is unheard of for him as well. And
so is Konate.
And Konate, and again, how does Konate settle? We don't know where Gomez is at. We have no idea where Matip's at. Really, we've heard there's a lot of talk that they might all be back for pre-season, but no one can know until you put Virgil van Dijk into a competitive football match where people are trying to hit him, and trying to kick him, and he's got a twist and he's got a turn under intense pressure. We can't know where he's at, and that way, I don't think we're going to see anything mega beyond that, and that's you're probably right. The biggest watch list is actually players is how the first team has come back.
It's just got to be, hasn't it? I mean, so what happens if Virgil van Dijk comes back and he gets injured?
Yeah, I mean, I could also see that links into Phillips as well. I don't think we'll sell him until 2, 3, 4 weeks into pre-season if we do, because as you both just mentioned, I was actually going to pull Chris shut the words out of my mouth there when John was talking. It twigged in my head about the defence. Actually, yeah, you're absolutely spot on. And Paul, you're completely right there as well. I mean, I can see Kabak not leaving. Where is he? Is he Stuttgart? Is it Stuttgart? Is it no? Schalke? Is it Schalke? Yeah. I can see him not leaving Schalke till mid-August, because he might have been told, his agent, hold your horses. There might be a chance you can come back to Liverpool. Let's just see how that. And you know what? You wouldn't you? Because it's a big opportunity. So everything could be, sort of lined up to what happens in the next 2-3 weeks, which is, as a fan, it's quite scary, isn't it? Really, because we could be on the fringes of buying a big-time player, and then it all just goes crumbling down because we have to go buy Ben White. So,
well, exactly. Last summer we took a calculated transfer gamble, and dear God, we've got my dad on the podcast, so we're not going to dive into our decision not to buy a centre half.
Well, he might.
We're not doing that again. But whether it's right or wrong, they clearly decided to not cover that position and buy elsewhere. I don't think they will make that mistake again, or they might do it by accident, because let's be honest, Virgil van Dijk could be fit all pre-season, and then they could both get injured in the first game, or on the first game after the international break in September. The window's shut. You're fucked. You can't. He
should have bought a centre half, shouldn't he, John?
But they should have bought 3. Never mind 1.
He gets 4 every week.
I think the biggest problem is not whether they get injured in the first game or 2, but how long it's going to take them to actually get up to proper match fitness.
Yeah.
And having had those injuries and been out for so long, I'll be astonished if they're anywhere near their best until Christmas.
Yeah.
So for me, it's who's going to be playing in that team. Is Konate going to get straight in because he's the only guaranteed centre-back we've got with Nat Phillips? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's going to be more interesting for me than whether, Van Dijk and Gomez and Matip are able to play from the word go. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we know Joel Matip's going to be world class from the moment
we know he's going to be
pitch until the moment he limps off
7 minutes later.
But yeah, no, that again, that's the point, and that there's some really interesting things I think to keep an eye on. And the Konate stuff, he's the one at the moment because he's the new buy, he's the
shiny
new boy.
Toy.
Exactly. I just want to see what he looks like. I want to see him in the red shirt. I want to see him lining up. I want to get an early sense for what kind of thing he's going to bring.
A moment in a pre-season friendly.
I want to know what side side of the defence he's going to play, because if they think Virgil van Dijk's not coming back for the start of the season, does he start, do you use him as the Virgil van Dijk understudy, because he's a big lad, isn't he? Do we see Nat Phillips? You're right, I think there's going to be a lot. I think it's Liverpool traditionally like to get the business done early, mentioning the commentary about the Liverpool being sell to buy, which they've always been, by the way. But I also think a lot of this, there's not going to be a lot of movement. I think Liverpool are going to have to play this better than ever. Man United buying Sancho is mad. It's mad. Look like how much money, how much financial trouble they're in. There's obviously reasons, and they're obviously expecting to make big sales or whatever to maybe cover a bit of that. But then Liverpool have always been a very finely tuned, finely run thing. I don't think we're going to be able to truly analyse it until we get to the end. Until the window shuts, I feel like there's going to be, we're going to have to brace ourselves for another summer of what's kind of going on. But we will be discussing that on the Reds Transfer Roundup show this week. I just want to say thanks to Nish Whitey as well for the super chat, saying starting the super chat fund so Paul and Chris don't have to share headphones. You'll never walk alone. Thank you so much. Right.
Rumbled. Yeah. We've been rumbled, Paul.
Rustled off the phone. Yeah, definitely. We are doing the Reds Transfer Roundup show tomorrow. It is streaming on the redmentv.com. We're going to be discussing Saul Niguez, Harvey Barnes rumours, and talking a little bit more about Virgil van Dijk's return to pre-season, and a bit more about obviously the fallout and impact of other football clubs buying footballers for big money when Liverpool are seemingly not, apart from the fact that they spent £40 million on a centre-half. So yeah, check that show out. That is tomorrow. I mentioned it earlier as well.
Still the second highest transfer in Europe, I think. Really? Sancho's not actually done yet, is it? And Ibrahima Konate was first with like 38 million, and I think we were second with Konate, 36 million. So mad that, isn't it?
Funny old world, isn't it? The reality as opposed to a speculative tweet. Yes, I mentioned the Trent interview earlier. It's about 40 minutes.
50.
Yeah, is it 50?
Yeah, I got shouted at last week for saying it was 15.
Oh, 15? I definitely wasn't with it. Yeah,
50.
I digitally cornered Trent for the best part of 50 minutes to talk about his time at Liverpool, Jordan Henderson, some of the biggest moments that he's faced as a Liverpool player in that time, and yes, including that famous corner against Barcelona that is streaming exclusively on the redmentv.com right now. So if you want that interview with Trent, you can go and check that out, as well as the Reds Transfer Roundup show and the Summer Football show where Ben was rounding up the Euros as well. We had the Clark James Liverpool fan extraordinaire from Denmark who actually gave a really, really impassioned insight into being in the ground when Christian Eriksen had his collapse and what that meant to Danish fans ahead of England's game with them as well. So yeah, some brilliant stuff for you guys to keep you entertained throughout the summer. We'll be back with the Redmen podcast next week where pre-season will be underway, and who knows, we may even know who Liverpool are playing. But yes, check this clip out from Trent, and we'll see us all next week.
I just remember like even being in like my room at like midday, one, and just thinking like in like 9 hours my dream could be true. I could be a Champions League winner, yeah. In like 9 hours, this is mental. And like not being able to like nap, I was just there, just staring at the ceiling, just thinking what can happen. And I think, I mean, as the first 20 until Mo got injured, we were well in the game. I mean, I'm not blaming Mo's injury for the reason we lost, but I think that was a big momentum changer for us. And then yeah, second half, everyone knows what happened there. But it was a good game. It taught us a lot of things, and I think we wouldn't be the team that we are today without that game.